In this video, I'll discuss an important financial tool that could be used to pay for your kids' college, and we're starting right now. So when it comes to paying for the ever-growing cost of college for your kids, you do have a few options. One option is to see if they qualify for a variety of available academic or sports scholarships or grants. Another is to apply for a government or private loan. However, in both cases, you're essentially waiting for your kids to grow up and actually apply to college before figuring out how to pay for it, and that may not be the best idea. Now, of course, you may be one of those families that does have the spare cash to just pay for school out of pocket, but with the cost of higher education rising 140% over the last 20 years, which is an average of 7% year over year, it's less and less likely that families will be able to come up with the money on the spot. Thus, you will need to plan ahead and literally invest in your kids' education by starting to save for college as soon as they are born. By the time they get to age 18, there should then be enough socked away to hopefully get them through undergrad and possibly graduate education without saddling them with debt upon graduation. If that sounds like a better approach, then this video is for you. So what we're essentially talking about here are educational savings and investing plans. These are tax-favored accounts where you deposit money that gets invested and which you can then use to fund college or other educational expenses. Now, typically this is for your kids, but can be for other dependents like grandkids or nieces and nephews, and even for yourself or your spouse if one of you is planning on attending college or trade school some years down the road. These educational plans are very useful financial tools, and more people need to be aware that they exist. The best known and most popular of these are the 529 plans. They're named after Section 529 of the IRS tax code, which spells out the rules, and they are legally referred to as qualified tuition programs. They were formally introduced in 1996 as part of the Small Business Job Protection Act, and from the start they were meant to help taxpayers save money for education. The two major types of 529 plans are the 529 Savings Plan and the 529 Prepaid Tuition Plan. In this video, I'll just discuss the much more common and more popular 529 Savings Plan. It's a tax advantage and qualified account, meaning you contribute with after-tax dollars with the investment earnings and withdrawals tax-free on both the federal and usually the state level. Now, something interesting to know here, although the federal government provides guidance on the plans, they're all actually administered and were originally proposed by the states. Each of the US states has its own 529 savings plan, with some states setting up more than one, and although all 529 plans are essentially the same in how they work, each does come with its own set of specific quirks and features. You do not have to invest in your own state's 529, so it pays to shop around and read reviews of performance and fees. Now, I've mentioned investment earnings, so what exactly are you investing in? All 529 savings plans invest in quality stocks, bonds, ETFs, and mutual funds, and you typically have the ability to choose the specific investments and allocate the proportions. If you're familiar with retirement plans such as a 401k, then the 529 is somewhat similar to it in general structure, except here you're not getting any employer matching and you're saving for educational expenses, not retirement. An important point to remember is that the invested 529 money has to be used for qualified college, university, or tech school related expenses such as tuition, fees, books, supplies, equipment, and room and board. In recent years, tax reform law expanded the usage of 529 funds, and you can now use them up to $10,000 per year for some private K through 12 tuition as well. However, if the money is not used for educational purposes, tax is due on the earnings, and you will also incur a 10% penalty. You do have to designate a beneficiary when you set up the plan, and it's usually your child, but as I mentioned earlier, it can be almost anyone else. The donor that sets up a 529 plan can be just about anyone as well, including non-relatives of the beneficiary. And finally, contributions to the plan are generally state income tax deductible up to a certain limit, and this is something your accountant can verify for you in your specific state, as currently 30 states do allow a tax deduction. I personally have a 529 set up for my son, who is 6 at the time of this video, and I did end up choosing our California plan as we live here in Los Angeles. It's called the Scholar Share 529, and I'll use it as an example. Here are some basic numbers for it. The minimum to open the plan is $25, and the maximum lifetime contribution is $529,000, which is coincident with the name of the plan. That's proof right there that government bean counters do have a sense of humor. They could have set the limit at $530,000, but anyway, you can invest in numerous mutual funds and bond funds, and the plan plan can automatically adjust your holdings from being more aggressive for maximum earnings when your child is still young to more conservative to preserve the money as they get closer to college age. There are fees, of course, for some of the managed funds, but lower cost index options are also available. So that is the essential info on the 529 savings plan. If you have never seen these plans and you have young kids, I encourage you to go to your state's 529 website and just Google the state's name and the number 529 and see what is available. It is very easy to apply and open up one of these plans, and the money can be automatically deposited from your account to the 529 on a monthly basis. It's impossible to predict exactly how much higher education will cost a decade or two from now, but it likely won't be any cheaper, and steady deposits into the 529 plus the growth from investing will give you that peace of mind that if your child decides to go to college, you will not have to scramble to find the money to pay for it at the last minute. Now, as we finish up this topic, let me answer one of the most common 529 questions I get as a financial advisor, and that is, what happens if your child doesn't attend college or just doesn't need the money due to a scholarship they were awarded or some other reason such as military paying for their education? Great question, and no, the money doesn't get wasted as you have a number of options. First off, you can easily change beneficiaries, and anyone else in the family can use the money for their educational needs, including K-12 schooling. You can use this money to pay off existing student loans up to a $10,000 lifetime limit, which can even be your own student debt if you still have it. Also, you can roll the money over into a Roth IRA for your child and get them started on their retirement investing early. Finally, if all else fails, you can just withdraw the money, and that may not cost you as much in taxes as you may think. The withdrawal amount will be taxed at the beneficiary's rate, which is likely to be lower if it's your child. You'll pay a 10% penalty, but it's just on the earnings growth, not the whole value of the account. There are a few situations where you may not incur a penalty at all. If the beneficiary dies or becomes disabled, or he or she goes to a U.S. military academy, no penalty applies. And if your child gets a scholarship, you can withdraw up to the amount of the award and spend it on whatever you want. But you'll pay income tax on any gains in the account when you make withdrawals. So the bottom line is that if you have kids, you have everything to gain by opening up a 529 and really nothing to lose. As a financial advisor, this is something I recommend to new parents, and I also stress that it's something you want to start early in your child's life. The last thing you want is a first semester tuition bill to come in and you don't have any way to pay for it without taking out a loan. Okay, that was a fairly comprehensive overview of the 529 savings plan. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.